Hello, strong, beautiful, confident woman of God. Yes, I am talking to you. Welcome to the Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast, where getting freedom from the effects of domestic violence meets empowerment to walk in the fullness of your God-designed purpose. I am your host, Tina. I am an attorney, an author and speaker, and a Christian life purpose coach. I will be your guide here, helping you on your journey from overcoming victimhood and just simply surviving to stepping into the victorious life God has waiting just for you. As we travel this road together, Purpose After Domestic Violence is not just a podcast. It's a sacred space where the shackles of domestic violence are broken and empowerment takes root, grows, and flourishes. Here, we are not just surviving, we're thriving in the fullness of our God-designed purpose. I have personally walked the path from victimhood to victory, and I'm here to guide you through it. Picture me as your big sister, holding your hand, sharing wisdom and revelation, and helping you navigate the twists and turns of this path towards healing, freedom, and empowerment. Whether you're on the path to victory or seeking a guiding light in the storm, Purpose After Domestic Violence is here for you. Together, we'll illuminate the path forward to a life filled with purpose. Welcome, my sweet sister, to the Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast. Okay, here we are back with Becca and little Maggie May for our chapter on legal abuse. So we are in chapter 11 in the book, Freedom from the Effects of Legal Abuse. When you recognize legal abuse and identify how it has impacted your life, you can change your narrative by changing your mindset about authority figures. I tell you, today, this one is like, this is a hard one too, and one we absolutely do not recognize, right? So I actually want to start this one with the scripture because I love, love, love it. You know, we talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, right? All the time. You can go online and find Bible study after Bible study about the Proverbs 31 woman.
It's everywhere.
But did you know the first 10 verses of Proverbs is not about Proverbs 31 woman? That doesn't start till verse 11. So Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9, I really grab onto as kind of the verse for my law firm. And it says, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. So I feel like today this has really been stirring in me because I have a really, really big hearing this afternoon, and I've got another one on Thursday that I love being an attorney. I love meeting with my clients. I love helping them through, what they're going through, but ending up having a nasty court battle, I do not like that. It stresses me out beyond belief. And you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I kind of see it, and probably I should stop speaking this, but I'm going to say it, and then I'll tell you what, then I won't say it anymore. But it's like playing Russian roulette when you walk into a courtroom, except that there's 5 bullets in the chamber, and 1 out of 6 times you won't get shot. That's how I feel stepping into a courtroom. I cannot tell my clients what I think will happen. I have no idea. I'm really hopeful today's going to be a big win, but we'll see.
We're just going to believe today is going to be a big
win. Yes, we're going to believe it. So, the legal system is just so broken. lots of systems in the world today are just so broken, right? So I've really been seeking the Lord probably within the last 6 months or so, because coming out of law school, I mean, this domestic violence stuff and my working at our domestic violence agency is why I ended up going to law school in the first place, because I saw women losing their kids to their abusers in the court system because she couldn't afford an attorney and he could.
Yeah.
And that
happens a lot.
It happens a lot. And, I just started crying out, God, this is so wrong. And he's like, what are you going to do about that, Tina? Right? So the ultimate answer to that was Tina went to law school. So, but now, right now, here we are. And I've been practicing a practicing attorney for 4.5 years now. And I haven't been able to change a darn thing. I can help individual clients through the process, but am I really making a big, significant impact? No. And that's a big part of why I wanted to get this book launched, because I truly believe, because we have great judges, we have good judges. Do we have great laws? No. And actually, Indiana has some of the best domestic violence laws in the country.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but they're still not great. It's a felony if a man beats his dog, but it's a misdemeanor if he beats his wife. How does that even make sense?
It doesn't.
How does that even make sense? So I feel like the book is a good way to help women get fixed. Because if women can find their voice and women can be empowered, then they can step into the courtroom and use their voice. And I believe that's the way things will ultimately change.
Yeah.
And raise up women, beyond our power after DV. We're moving to purpose after domestic violence and pathway and passion. So these women, I just see a host of women rising up, right? And becoming attorneys and becoming judges and becoming lawmakers, right? This is how we fix the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Okay. So for my divorce, he did not want the divorce. So he did everything he could to stop it. Continuance, right? Over and over. We got it done in less than a year, but I think it was like 10 months. I filed for divorce March 15th. And then the divorce was finalized on March 6th. December 6th. So about 9 months, right? So in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't long. This hearing that I have this afternoon, we're pushing 2 years on this one. Yeah. So, and I'm actually representing dad. Mom is the one who is abusive. So, yeah. So, yeah. And then I've got cases where the divorce is over and he just won't let go. So he's like taking her back to court because he didn't get some of his stuff, and it's like, they don't quit. No.
Well, that's like how many times have you seen people too when there's children involved? They want to keep doing continuous or keep going back to court as much as they can for the children.
Yeah.
But until that divorce or whatever, they didn't even help with the children.
Right.
They weren't even present.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then I also see, I feel like this is part of the legal system, part because it is part of the system when the Department of Child Services is involved, because these guys will call DCS and file false reports
Yeah.
over and over and over. And then now DCS is involved, so we got to file an emergency motion to modify custody, right? Um, mm, I've got a client right now who will eventually um, be a part of. I'll probably have her on the podcast at some point, and she is mentioned in the book. Um, so she's been divorced since 2019. He's still calling DCS on her, still trying to get the kids away from her. Still, 5 years later.
And that's why I feel like DCS doesn't take the ones they should take seriously.
Yeah,
Because you have people
yeah,
that just call and
yeah,
it's nonsense.
yeah, yeah.
It's really sad.
It is. It is. Mm. So for me, this is a tough one. And when I spent my 2 weeks down in Kentucky to finish writing the book, um, and I talked about in the sexual abuse one, that was a hard chapter for me to do. But legal abuse was the second hardest for me because you know what? I had an attorney who, looking back, I think the only thing that she accomplished was billing me for over $10,000 worth of legal work. But I came away with nothing. We had 50-50 custody, so he didn't have to pay me child support. I didn't get any of his 401k. He got the house.
He got everything.
He got everything. He got everything. I had a list of personal property that I wanted on it, which was my scrapbooks of all my baby photos for our 3 boys. It's still sitting at his house 23 years later.
That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing. So I make it my mission when I do help these women, they're not going to walk away with nothing. They at least, and it's not about screwing the men over. It's not. It's about getting their fair share. Indiana, everybody thinks Indiana's a 50-50 state. It's a fair and equitable state. So fair and equitable kind of translates to 50-50, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to. Yeah, so I'm actually doing a prenuptial agreement for a young man, and he comes in and he had kind of drafted up one, and he's already decided before they're even married that if she's a stay-at-home mom, then she shouldn't have any of the equity in the home since she didn't contribute.
That's a red flag.
So I'm like, whoa, let's back this up a minute. So this is funny because this is something I thought of when I was going through my divorce because I was a stay-at-home mom, right? So I made like a list of like the different jobs a mom does, right? So babysitter, right? Um, housekeeper, cook, office manager. I was paying the bills, so I was the office manager too. All the different things and like totaled it up. And I came to like a salary of over $100,000 for the year. And so since I became an attorney, like I might have even still been in law school, I kind of did some research to see, and people have like done these breakdowns now. And the average salary of a stay-at-home mom is almost $200,000 now at this point a year.
I believe it. It's a
Yeah.
24/7, 24-hour job.
Yeah. Yeah. So I call bull explicative on a stay-at-home mom does not contribute
Yeah.
to
Well,
household finances.
my
You know?
husband, I had to come out of that mindset.
Yeah.
Because I even worked when we first got married and stuff. I worked and all that. And when we figured out what works best for us is for me to stay home with the kids. That was
Right.
very hard for me.
Mhm.
And for a long time, I would catch myself like asking for things, asking if it was okay for me to do this and buy
Yeah.
that and all that because I don't contribute.
Right.
And my husband was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I couldn't do what I do if you weren't home with them."
Right. Right.
He's like, you work more than I do.
Yeah. And our jobs aren't 9 to 5. It's not a 40-hour work week.
No.
It's 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
So factor in all that overtime, right?
There's a lot.
There's a lot of overtime there.
There is. And it's
Yeah.
all worth it. But yeah, stay-at-home mom's a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Crazy.
So,
That's a red flag. I need a red flag the way.
I know. I talked him down off that ledge and educated him on that. And he saw it my way by the end of the conversation. I'm like, okay, good. Good. Good
Oh
boy.
my goodness. Mm-mm.
And he's young. I mean, he's my boy's age, and it's like, wow, how did we get to 2024 and men still think this?
Well, because that's why they want to push a lot of women into the workforce, though.
Mm.
And it's to break up the family home, in my opinion.
Right.
They want the government raising your kids rather than the mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So government, legal system, all kind of wrapped into one, right?
Yeah, it's a little warped.
Yeah. So, and then do you want to talk a little bit about your um legal battle?
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see why not.
To get nervous.
Well, we're not naming names, so
It's true. So I don't even know where to start. So with my situation, it's one of those like I brought up in last week's,
yeah.
it wanted nothing to do with the child until I left. And then which we know where we're at now, but I had to go, not working and all that out of the blue after I contacted him, asked if he was going to help financially. Was told to F off, like in all literal like terms. That's really what I was told. But I had to go and get an attorney, and I talked to Safe Passages actually, and they referred me to this attorney because the attorney he somehow whipped up was a big deal in this area. And she did nothing. She did nothing and kept charging me and charging me and charging me for nothing.
That's who my attorney was.
And then I want to say I know I was probably well over, like, I feel like it was definitely over $6,000 because she told me I could do in payments until the next, because we never even went to court.
Yeah.
There was never even a hearing. But she, was wanting more money and more money. And I was like, I can't do all that up front. We haven't even been to court yet. Can I have time to do that? And I was told no. But he kept wanting different things. We never went to court, but he wanted, his attorney kept wanting all these other things that she had to do. So it felt, I guess, kind of like she was doing nothing because we didn't really do anything. She didn't do anything, but just the emails and the contact from his attorney because he kept prolonging things.
Yeah.
And filing for new things. kept costing me more money.
Mm-hmm.
And then thank God I found you.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, we've never actually sat down and went over the whole thing in front of a judge.
Right.
And it's been 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which, praise the Lord, where we're at now.
Yeah. 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 So this is how Becca and I met,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So how did you hear about me?
So I actually, because when I was going with that with my old attorney, I was like, you know what? Because here in town, she had won her own case with her children and was in a domestic violence relationship. That's why Safe Passage was like, you need her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I honestly just started Googling in the area for someone that specialized in domestic violence
Okay.
because I felt completely abused by my attorney. And I knew at that point with me still having contact with Safe Passages and doing my
Yeah.
own research that I was going through legal abuse
Yeah. Yeah.
and financial abuse.
Right.
Um, and he was well aware of that because in this
Right.
time frame too, he's not helping with diapers. He's not helping keep this kid in clothes who was huge. So like
Mm-hmm.
we were going, wasn't helping with anything. And then you add the fees to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I just Googled domestic violence attorneys in my area. And that's how I found you. You popped up and I read what you did specifically and that you were recognized by the president at the time. And I was like, okay, this is who I need
Yeah.
because someone that knows what I'm going through
Yeah.
because it's still happening. The abuse was still happening.
Right. Right.
I mean, I even filed for a protective order and then I actually had it removed in the beginning, which happens a lot
Yep.
to women. But, you know, my son got sick. I felt like I needed someone to talk to and I needed help. And I was told to F off then.
Yeah.
But when I tried to re-up that because there was still stalking and other things going on, that attorney said her and his attorney made a deal and that was all. And that didn't even happen.
Wow.
So, because then when I got you, you were like, what? This isn't even what?
Right.
It
Right.
was just stuck and never touched. Um, so like that was just there, but it had been too long by the time you came to really even touch it anymore.
Yeah, because by the time I came involved, because you guys hadn't gotten to court yet, that initial protective order had expired.
Yeah. And I really wonder if that's part of the reason why
Mm-hmm.
we kept seeing new things being filed and continuous for it to be pushed back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like it would have been interesting
Yeah.
if otherwise.
Yeah.
But I found you by just Googling. I didn't know what else to do. I felt completely
Mm.
helpless.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I was drowning, even though I had already left him.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so many things still going on. I was still being abused in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just Googled and you were the first one that popped up.
Yeah. And we will, when we go through our post-separation um, chapter, we'll circle back to financial and legal. Yeah. So, because that's all part of, because usually if you're in the court process, you have left, right?
Yeah.
And so we make the point with the post-separation abuse that, the abuse hasn't stopped. It just looks different now,
Yeah.
but the legal and the financial abuse really go hand in hand with that post-separation abuse. They want to cripple you financially, and they know that you're going to be paying an attorney, 200, 250, 300, if you're in other states, $500, $600 an hour,
Yeah.
and if you're a single mom struggling to keep food on the table and a roof over your head, how are you supposed to afford that?
Yeah.
And they know that.
Well, I think that brings you back to the tactic too. I think with some men, they do that because they're like, oh, will spook her. She'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
She'll come back.
Yeah.
Um, And I'm not going to lie, that did cross my mind. But with our case, when I first left, there was, DCS was involved when I first left,
Mm-hmm.
because there was some medication withheld from my son.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had to get the doctor involved, and that's how all that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I was told by that worker, the first worker, that he didn't want to use for court. But that if I went back, they would take him from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that was kind of what was in my head when all that
Yeah.
happened. How are you supposed to come up with all that money?
Right.
And this happened. I got that money, it was like God withheld. But then when you keep having things prolonged, you got to keep dishing it out.
Right.
And that's hard to do when you're a waitress, because those are the only hours that work for you and your little tiny infant child.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Mm-mm-mm.
But I remember thinking, having moments like, I can't do this. What if I just, and in the very beginning, that was something that kept in my brain, though, was I was told if I go back, they will take my child from me, from
Yeah.
going, if I go back to my abuser and
Yeah.
his abuse.
Yeah. And I think, even though, DCS, I feel like they only get it right, like maybe 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a good principle, and hopefully actually encourages us to not go back.
Yeah.
Because if DCS considers if you go back into an abusive relationship, you're being negligent to your kids by putting them back in that situation. And
Yes.
they do take that very seriously.
They do, but then
So
it seems like nothing happens with that in the actual court system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we see the system is broken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Woo. So yeah. So legal abuse is a tough one, and it's an expensive one.
Yes.
Right?
Ties right into it. That financial abuse.
Yeah. But just like God is our ultimate provider, God is the ultimate judge.
Yes.
Right? And Jesus is our defense attorney.
Yes.
There's a book called Divine Restraining Orders. Have you gotten that? Have you read it?
Mm-mm. You've told me about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I worked at the domestic violence agency for 6 years. And one of the things I did a whole lot was go and watch protective order hearings. So I get the concept of how a protective order works, right? So
Yes.
When I read this book, I'm like, oh my gosh, because it talks about the courts of heaven. God is the ultimate judge. Jesus is our defense attorney, and the devil is the prosecuting attorney.
Hmm.
And so just look at the story of Job, right? I mean, it tells us the story of the devil going to the throne room of heaven, to the courts of heaven, and indicting Job, right? So the devil he is an officer of the court. And we don't think of it in those terms, but being an attorney and understanding how the court system works, right? Or doesn't work, right? When you file a divine restraining order against the devil, he can't violate it. Because if he did, he would lose his position in the court of heaven. And he is not going to risk that.
Well, and when you say this, I want to chime in here,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember you telling me that, and we did. And it took a while for us to see that.
Yeah.
But I want to look back, though, at the spiritual warfare part of that.
Yeah.
And how long sometimes it takes what we can't see,
Right.
the battle going on to get to that.
Right.
So we may not see that and really think that's in place and that authority is there and that protective order is there, that restraining order.
Yeah.
Because in the spiritual, there's a whole process going on.
Yes.
That we can't see.
Yes.
But it does happen. Just God's timing, not ours.
Yeah. 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 So get that book, Issuing Divine Restraining Orders. Trying to think of the guy that wrote it. I think his first name's Miles. It's not Miles Monroe though. So yeah, such a good book, such a good book. So if you want to know anything about the courts of heaven, because we have a spiritual battle going on around us 24/7, 24/7. And it's just intensifying as we barrel towards eternity.
Yeah. What was it? My mom brain with all new baby and all that, but was it David? Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But that prayed and it took, was it 21 days?
That was Daniel.
Daniel. Okay.
Yep. He prayed and fasted, right, for 21 days. And the angel came to him on the 21st day and said, we heard your prayer on day 1, but we've been battling to get your answer to you for 21 days. Yeah.
So like, that's what I see in my personal experience.
Yeah.
And it was over 21 days, but like, you don't know what, there's always a spiritual battle going on that we cannot see.
Yeah.
If you tell God something, you take that authority, you put that restraining order against the enemy and his tactics.
Yes.
Take control and proclaim that in the high courts of heaven, whatever you're going through, whatever it is.
Right.
It may not happen like that because you can't see, but you will see that promise.
It will. Yes.
Unfold in front of your own eyes.
Yes. Yes. That's so good.
It just may not be when you're expecting it.
Yeah.
Is talking about my end, in my experience, it's been 3 years and we didn't see something. And we're like a little over 2 years in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're just at the place right now with your case that we're just waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
Because we know that battle's raging.
Yeah.
And we also know that we're winning.
Yeah. But like, just give God, he's a man of his word.
Yeah.
But it might take a minute to get that answer back to you because you can't see what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Spiritually.
Yeah. And I just want to interject this, because the word says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but the powers and principalities, right? And this is what we're talking about, the spiritual warfare going on, right? So we get so caught up in my ex-husband or my ex-boyfriend. He's so evil. He's the bad guy, right? And while, yes, also no, because it's the enemy and it's the forces of darkness,
Yeah.
It's the doors that we open in our own lives that invite that evil in. But we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We need to focus our eyes on the true enemy.
Yes. And when you do that and you have faith, you see the shift. You feel things start to happen.
Yes.
And I can't wait. That's part of our testimony, my family's testimony.
Yes.
Things shift when you view it that way.
Yeah.
And when you forgive.
Yes.
You got to forgive the person. There's a spirit working through that person.
Yes.
Forgive the person and you work and pray against the spirit.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So good. So
And when
good.
you take authority of that, mm,
Yeah.
it's good.
So we're moving right along. So we have, just to summarize a little bit, next week we're going to be talking about technology abuse and then spiritual abuse, which I'm sure we'll have more of this spiritual warfare kind of conversation in that one, I'm sure. Um, Becca and I can't help but talk about that kind of stuff. Right? Um, and then we're going to do the last type of abuse would be post-separation. And like I said, today in post-separation, we'll kind of circle back to financial and legal a little bit because it is a big part of after you've left the relationship. And
Yes.
then we'll be wrapping up with You Truly Are a Strong, Beautiful, Confident Woman of God. Yay! So exciting. And then we need to start praying about what our next kind of series will be. Noodle.
Okay.
So yeah, so exciting things coming up. Um, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on my Purpose After Domestic Violence podcast. I hope today's conversation resonated with you. And if you think it could encourage someone you know, please share it. Together, we can spread the light of healing and purpose. I would so appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and leave me a review. These small actions would bless me indeed and help other women find this podcast and be encouraged too. Remember, you are not alone. Your strength is undeniable, and your journey is worth celebrating. If you have questions, thoughts, or topics you'd like me to explore in the future, please reach out on social media, or you can visit my website at purposeafterdv.com. Before we part ways, always remember, you are a strong, beautiful, confident woman of God, and your purpose is shining brightly within you. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep moving forward on your journey to a life filled with purpose.